What's your most embarrassing? You were not supposed to see that story. We have a single person bathroom in my office. Last week I started earlier on Monday than I ever had before. Took my morning bathroom visit and couldn't flush it down because the pipes were frozen, which is apparently common on a Monday morning, and you're meant to do a test flush. I had to ask my manager for his space heater, which took an hour to thaw the pipes enough for me to dispose of my shame. My first day of work at a new job, as the only dude on a team of 9 women. I was adjusting a setting on an app I have. I realized it was going to go off soon, and now that I was at a new job, I no longer wanted this daily notification. This app is known for being very inappropriate and sarcastic. As I was adjusting it, it said very loudly, "I watch you while you sleep." I then had to show all my new coworkers the app so that they wouldn't think I was doing something weird at work. It was carrot alarm clock. Funny app, but not one you want going off at work. I used to work at Majors, and every couple of months we had to take updated training test on a computer in a room built in with a break room. I went back to take my test and heard someone come in and start eating lunch. I was out of sight, so the girl that came in perceived to be alone. I finished my test, and when I got up and started to walk into the break room from the computer room, she let out the loudest, nastiest, greasiest fart I've ever heard in my life. She looked me right in the eyes mid-fart as I came walking in. She was always a snobby coworker that was rude to me. She never was after that day. I guess she was scared I'd tell people the story. I didn't say anything to her. I just walked out fast so the stench wouldn't hit my nose. In middle school I sneezed at lunch. I did not expect that the sneeze would send a bunch of snot/mucus flying, landing on my arm, still dangling from my nose. Seriously, there was so much. I have never sneezed like that before or since. I panicked because I had nothing to wipe it on. No way to clean it up without drawing attention, so I just sucked it back in, thinking I was discreet since I was sitting alone. Nope, 4 to 5 boys sitting at another table all saw me and freaked out. Some saying how gross it was, others just staring in horror. I wanted to melt into the floor. I used to have my ex-boyfriend saved as daddy with a tunge emoji in my phone. I know, cringe, but it was our little joke. I had my father saved as daddy with a heart emoji as well. I stupidly thought that the difference in emojis would save me from majorly embarrassing myself. Well, I got a new bra, and I sent a picture of myself in it to the wrong daddy. My eyes widened as it sent, and in that moment I wished a giant hole would appear in the ground out of nowhere, so I could jump in it. I frantically tried to save the situation, and told him that I actually meant to send that picture to my mom to show her my new bra. He didn't reply until a couple of days later, and all he said was okay. We have never spoken about that moment to this day. My cousin was visiting this past weekend. I have 3 German shepherds who have no concept of personal space. Friday one of them jumped up to lick her face, and on the way down a paw caught her pants. So, saw cousins downstairs. Saturday she was in a crop top and outside with me while I was smoking. Dog tried again to lick her face, but caught her shirt and put boobs out on display. So the short answer is, found out my cousin has a lot of piercings. Lol. When I was like 17 I was singing Lights by Ellie Goulding in my kitchen, dancing around and pretending my phone was a microphone. Must have been around 2012. Later that day I went to my grandma's. She had a voicemail of me singing it, and she played it for me, and I was basically like, damn, that's crazy IDK, what that is, knowing full well it was me the entire time. LMFAO. I'm surprised by how many people try and look at breastfeeding mothers when they're using the parent room in the mall. This happened a few years ago before COVID. I was sitting in the chair behind the curtain and an Aussie woman, presumably the grown mother of the baby that was being changed in the changing area, pulled back the curtain. Why? Even if I hadn't been sitting in there, who pulls back a curtain that's clearly there for a reason to give privacy? What did she expect to see? Even though she didn't know I was there, was she going to check out the upholstery on the chair? It's a tiny space behind a curtain. Just so damn nosy. And another time the curtain didn't quite cover at a different mall. Like a tiny slither was there. It's amazing how many people were trying to look behind. Just wow. When I was 16 I went to a foreign exchange program in France where people from all around the world would live in dorms. but one of the most strict rules is no shagging each other there, or you would be sent home. I got caught mid-act by one of the supervisors in the dorm with a Turkish girl. After all, no one would like to hear from students getting back home pregnant from someone from half a world away. I never saw someone so embarrassed in my life. Thankfully he just played dumb and looked to me the rest of the program like I was some weird perv. So, I do stuff with my boyfriend that involves a lot of photos and videos. At my new job, it's very uptight and professional. We had this team bonding thing where we would go around and connect our phones to a Bluetooth projector and show everyone a place we vacation to or wanted to vacation to. Stupid corporate stuff I'm sure you've all had to do before. I had been there about 2 weeks and there were 40 or so of us in the room. Boss called on me because I'm the new girl and yeah, connected to Bluetooth, and now everyone at work knows what I look like naked as I fumbled my phone trying to pull up these pics we took at Sedona. It was dead quiet until they awkwardly moved on to someone else. I got a job once. The boss had also hired her mom in an act of flagrant nepotism. The mom was somewhat irritating and would never stop talking. Among the several thousand or so things she mentioned, she told me about how her daughter was dating a guy at the same office. Well, come to find out they were in a relationship forbidden by office rules, and I wasn't supposed to know that. So I ended up losing my job because my boss decided not to risk me letting her secret out, which I only found out about because among the many rules she broke, she was having the company pay her mom to sit there and irritate people. Another return to my corporate software development days. Having bought a very large regional bank, we need to convert those accounts onto our systems. More complicated than it sounds for legal reasons. We are getting ready to test the conversation. We were starting small, then would run in parallel the multi-week conversation. I had been gifted with setting up a command center for us in software development. I analyzed the size of development teams, their involvement in the conversation, what other projects they were involved with, and so on. I wrote a memo outlining how many people each development area needed to provide and when. I attached the memo to the email, addressing it to senior VPs, more senior VPs, and the CEO. I emphasized that full coverage was needed, and they were responsible for providing bodies, including the words shifts cannot be dropped, they must be covered. Manuscript Word didn't flag misspelling shifts without the F. Yes, I wrote chess cannot be dropped, they must be covered. I had my chops busted by every one of the recipients. It started with my boss's boss and the senior PM trying to convince me that ours wanted to speak with me. I could have believed it if they weren't falling out of their chairs giggling. Granted, this is not C, but here point, so close enough. So, to begin this tale we must return to yesterday and the food that I had eaten. For breakfast, it was your usual cereal and coffee. However, for lunch I had made chili, hot bean chili, and this is where our tale point truly begins. See, it was so good that I ate 4 bowls of the stuff, and then later I went to a friend's and they had made white chicken chili, spicy as all get out. My lucky day. I love chili, so I ate 3 bowls of it. No regrets. Well, for drinks I was having this peach mango beer. Honestly, it wasn't bad. Anyway, I came home and I went to bed. Well, next morning my bowels didn't wake up until I was already at work. Now, I work at college, so the bathrooms here are always busy. I had to duck into the gender neutral bathroom because it was go time and it was closest. My stomach had started making this really concerning sound, like a cat returning to life after being dead for a while. It was horrible sounding, and as a man, it felt weird to, like some sort of large parasite was turning over or wriggling around in my stomach. I actually felt for women who are pregnant. So here I am, using this gender neutral bathroom, trying to get this moving. Nothing. I felt the pressure, the instinctual desire to bear down and unleash the great turd lord, but nothing was coming. No turd the size of a elephant tusk was forthcoming. I tried everything, spreading wide the old booty cheeks to catch some air, to cause maybe reverse turd suction. I even tried the old sit up straight and sway side to side, as if I was in a trance, maybe to dislodge the tudlets from whatever intestinal elbow they were stuck on. Nothing. This goes on for an eternity, maybe a minute, when suddenly I hear faint girlish laughter, and the door opening. Into the gender neutral bathroom comes a pack of girls, 3 maybe 4, given the different giggles being heard. Anyway, they see my feet under the stall and they didn't care. One came into the stall next to me, and I felt that it would be wise to keep my mouth shut. However, it was then I felt a lurch. The lurch we all know means sh was about to happen, and it didn't care for God, the devil, nor any other deity humans may have invented. It was the lurch that said F you bud, let's do this, YOLO. And that was the last time I heard those girls laugh. I hope someday they learn to laugh again. Anyway, my sphincter gave way before the onslaught and all I could say was oh god. And hold on. First thing that came out was this high pitch whistle noise, the kind that is similar to noisy bottle rockets. However, instead of a loud pop at the end, it was the sounds of the demons unleashing the call to battle. A cacophony of toots, roars, trumpets and drums. I mean, I had the entire brass section and drum section of the band belting forth from my a-hole in 3-part disharmony. It was the summons to the Lord, and he answered. Oh god, did he answer? His arrival was heralded by a girlish oh my fine god. Did he die? And then a dread silence. First came the smell. It felt oily, like the kind you know is just attaching to your skin and clothes. Even though we know what I scent, it was an eldritch, deathly stench you could sense seeping and sliding like a giant slug across the floor and climbing the walls. It just permeated the room. It was awful. It was like every roadkill this past week had climbed up my poop chute and died. It was the smell of your grandmother's compost pile bucket. I could hear the girls gagging, and then one violently vomited, which caused a bunch of oh no Amy, and you could hear them crying. I couldn't even say sorry because the next performance had begun. Now, we have all had those shits where it felt like your precious staphia was opening so widely it hurt, and that the turd being birthed felt like a goddamn arm and was hard as a rock. This was similar, except it felt like a leg and torso, covered in oil and liberally spiced with lava. This thing clawed its way out, setting my anus on fire with it, and it plunged and made an audible kerkunk noise, which, in pure silence, was absolutely dephoning. What followed was a gurgling, throaty, gassy-filled turd tsunami that burned and boiled its way out, complete with its own full orchestra. I literally was saying ow 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 over and over as my poor a-hole was violated and abused. With a final deathly gurgle the episode passed. I felt lighter physically. Mentally I was a mess cause god did my a hurt, and I still had to finish my day. I didn't hear the girls. I guess they had left. However, that was when I looked down and saw the side a tiny white and pink shoe with a equally pink cover fussy sock and ankle showing. During that torment, I had forgotten about my poor stallmate. I wasn't sure if she was alive or in shock. She didn't make a sound. Like nothing. I did the old turn and check, and what greeted my eyes was a kingly turd. It was wrapped around the inside of the bowl like a fat happy python, and it had a great many baby little turdlets floating nearby in the safety of its contented curl. Wisely I flushed. It took about 3 flushes for this thing to slither into Tartarus, and that's saying something. This toilet could have sucked down an entire roll of toilet paper and not blink. After the freak amount of post-sh paperwork and several more flushes, it dawned on me that my nose must have stopped working because I couldn't smell anything. During all this my stallmate still hadn't moved or made a sound, so I just muttered a heartfelt I'm so sorry and went to wash up. Right when I got done washing I hear a flush, and she emerged. She was gorgeous, like it was like seeing the sun for the first time after living in darkness my whole life. She was going to break some poor kid's neck someday from whiplash as they did a double take. She kept her eyes glued to the floor and she came over and washed her hands before turning slightly and said it's okay. I think I was abandoned by my so-called friends. Though they left me . And she shuffled to the door. However, right as she reached it, she turned, looked me straight in the eye, moved her hip charmingly, and let loose what I could only describe as the cutest fart I had ever heard. It was like hearing a unicorn neigh . And then she giggled and left.